Chromatic enclosures. What are chromatic enclosures? If you haven't seen the video I made about diatonic ones, please go see that first because you're going to be pretty lost without it. Here it is. If I just recap about diatonic enclosures for a second, and I take C, just 1, 3, 5, add neighbor tones and approach notes, I get this pattern. Or. Now, if I just wedge more notes in between, I can create a way of just sort of tucking in the very dissonant notes and creating this passable consonant chromaticism that still outlines the harmony. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to, instead of playing 2, 1, 7, 1, I'm going to play 2, flat 2, 7, 1. Hear that sound? Now that sound works around the root and the fifth. Now, why doesn't it work around the third? Well, the note that's a half step above the third is inside the mode. The note that's a whole step above the third is outside the mode. You don't want to start these chromatic enclosures outside of the mode. So what can you do? Around the third, I just add 2 approach notes, a double approach note. So I start on the neighbor tone, and then I add that double approach. So if I just play all of these chromatic enclosures in a row, starting from the neighbor tone, here's the sound. And I'm just playing over a C, right? Cool sound. Now I can also start from the approach note. Just flip the pattern over. So instead of going 2, flat 2, 7, 1, I can go 7, 2, flat 2, 1. Works the same on the root and the fifth. Has a cool sound. Now what do you do for the third? Well, you're gonna have to start on the double approach note. I'm starting on the 2. That sound. So check this out. I just sort of made language out of all of them. I just mixed them up, sometimes starting on the approach, sometimes starting on the neighbor. You want to have a lot of freedom with this. So this is how you use the Ionian sort of sound. But think about this, you need to box it in a way that if you're hitting those neighbor tones, they have to start in the key. It sounds pretty awful if you just maybe do something like the chromatic neighbor tone, jumping to the approach note, to the actual neighbor tone, to the root, right? That doesn't really work. What you can do, and that's kind of like the last option, is you can use the chromatic neighbor tone into the neighbor tone, to the approach note, to the root. You can go. That sounds okay. That sounds really more chromatic, but still okay, because you're still basically treating that chromatic neighbor tone as like an approach note to the neighbor tone. So what you can do for the third is play that double approach note, then up to the diatonic neighbor tone, to the approach note, to the root. That's another option. That kind of sound. And this is really how you can sound bebop-y and still outline harmony and play over a major chord, right? Now, a great thing to practice is playing an arpeggio and just doing one enclosure on one of the chord tones every time you go up. So let's say I just select the root of a C major triad. And every time I see the root, I'm going to play a chromatic enclosure starting from the neighbor tone, this. And when I get there, I just keep playing the arpeggio up. Going down. How about I do that for the third? Fifth. So it sounds like lines when I do it that way. And it's a really great way to practice. So I'm gonna make another video about how to do this on minor chords and other types of chords, but this is how you start and how you do it on a major tonality in an Ionian context. In a 2-5-1, this is where you're going to be resolving to. Very cool. See you next time. Join the channel, subscribe, ring the bell, hit all the buttons, leave a comment, join our Patreon. See you soon.